Hi, this is Marih Alyn-Claire, and I'd like to talk to you about loopholes, potholes, and sinkholes. This is Senate Bill 608. It's legislation proposed by the House and Senate Democrats. And instead of a tenant protection bill, it reads more like a series of tenant deceptions. The first loophole in this hideous bill limits provisions for no-cause evictions, and renters might at first start to breathe a sigh of relief, thinking that no-cause eviction hammer is finally being eliminated. But wait a minute, lawmakers, Speaker Tina Koteck from the House, and Jenny Burdick, the majority leader, and Laurie Anderson, senator from Gresham, they grant property owners the continued right to evict new tenants at any time during their first year of tenancy. Yes, their first year of tenancy, for no reason at all. Now, how is this backpedaling loophole a protection for tenants, I ask? By keeping highly vulnerable renters under the threat of losing their housing. Now, in a high-demand rental market with superinflated rent prices, giving landlords the option of evicting new price-burdened tenants at will for an entire year, just in case the landlord changes their mind or suddenly intends to move into the unit without having a legal mandate, plus a penalty for not actually moving in, is unconscionable. The landlord has the responsibility of thoroughly screening applicants and making an informed decision and a firm commitment to a new tenant. Tenants take on a huge financial risk of moving into a new property, considering that a family has already incurred thousands of dollars in moving costs, now subject to the whim of a landlord's imposed no-cause eviction, may be forced into severe economic loss with no time to recover. How reasonable is it to expect families to be able to afford two moves within 1 year? It often takes most renters 3 to 5 years to financially recover from a single move. I spoke to House Representative Kenny Geyer about the issue at a local coffee shop a couple weeks ago. I asked her to consider how many tenants have their credit cards maxed out. Their savings have been siphoned off to pay for outrageously high rents and multiple moves from these past several years of price gouging. How many? If this law passes, a meager 1 month rent payment to tenants would not even come close to offsetting the cumulative expenses incurred by two moves within a 1 year period. This could potentially cause some renters to end up homeless, making this proposed legislation intolerable for most tenants. Under this bill, lawmakers would allow landlords to maintain the upper hand of power. And we've asked legislators to end no-cause evictions for 4 years now. Yet they continue to provide means to keep the oppressive practice in play. A main pothole in this proposed 7% rent increase cap, plus CPI that would run up rents past 10%, upwards to 12% annually, could even be more. Nothing in this proposed rent cap addresses the fact that low-income renters at 30% MFI or below, after 4 years of rent abuse, low wages, and fixed incomes, could not possibly afford ongoing annual rent increases at these high percentages. These renters would be the first casualties of this appalling bill. Higher income renters, well, 50%, 80% MFI could hang on for a while, but given that landlords have already gouged tenants' paychecks to profiteer at their expense, what is needed here is at least 3 year moratorium on rent increases statewide. Yes, 3 year moratorium. Now that would be ideal. But let's say we ask for a 2% rent cap would at least give renters some indicator that lawmakers take our plight seriously and would offer some good faith offset against years of price exploitation by certain landlords. After all, these are the laws that our state representatives put in place that has facilitated mass rent burden, displacement, homelessness, and death all over the state. Now, the sinkhole for tenants is lawmakers failing to lift the ban on rent control, leaving tenants wide open to abuse. In addition, SB 608 offers turnover opportunities for landlords. By giving landlords free range to charge unlimited rent to new tenants when they move in, when old tenants move out voluntarily or with cause, increases the financial burden on tenants while giving landlords protection against their turnover expenses. Now imagine that. The landlords are getting paid and tenants moving in are getting another monumental rent increase barrier. Now, this would act like a rent eviction, but in reverse. On landlords inclined to leverage their position using this legal loophole would be able to, over time, turn out their entire building, replacing lower income renters with higher income renters. This provision alone exemplifies and strengthens their egregious abuse of power. This bill is fraught with loopholes and potential long-term problems for tenants who desperately need real protections and provisions which will bring them economic relief and housing stability. Instead, low-income property owners are given full exemptions for providing rent caps to their tenants. New construction and buildings less than 15 years old are also exempt. Most of the incomes of tenants in low-income restricted buildings fall below the 30% MFI, and with every $20, $30, $50 annual rent increase pushes these renters further down the rent sinkhole. At a Gresham Housing for the People meeting I was at this summer, there were 2 tables filled with distressed seniors, sadly lamenting, "We are the next homeless." As both a tenant and volunteer tenant advocate, I encourage renters to make your responses known to our legislators about this bill. Now, who are the proponents of the bill? It appears that SB 608 is being supported by Stable Homes and the Housing Alliance of Oregon and the Community Alliance of Tenants and many other organizations. Most House and Senate legislators, including House Speaker Tina Koteck, seem determined to rushing through SB 608 through the legislative process in order to get it signed into law by Governor Brown, who has already given her support, in order to claim a swift victory. Well, a victory for who? It sounds more like a victory for them. Now, Katrina Holland, Director of Community Alliance of Tenants, submitted a real tenant protection bill in alignment with the statewide-led coalition that has been used primarily as a flank bill to push for improvements to SB 608. It seems that no real improvements are actually intended to materialize by lawmakers. Well, go figure. Any surprise there? For some tenants in areas of our state that have no tenant protections at all, such as in Portland's relocation ordinance, a 7% plus CPI may seem like at least something. However, this something is likely to quickly dissolve into nothing, like, well, for us, but higher rents, growing housing instability, with more people of color, families, students, seniors, and disabled populations sinking further into the abyss. This makes clear that tenants aren't really being listened to nor taken seriously by our elected officials. So tenants have asked lawmakers for 4 years to pass the following tenant protections: end no-cause evictions, lift the ban on rent control statewide, impose a reasonable rent cap, something like 2 to 5%, based on lower tenant population wages. This way, all tenants will be able to participate and have housing for themselves. So I stand firm on our request to end no-cause evictions, to lift the ban on rent control statewide, to impose a 2 to 5% cap, rent cap based upon the lowest tenant wages. Therefore, I do not support SB 608.